I recorded there last time. And share, share, and this, maybe. Ta-da! Okay. Let me get my book open. That'd help too, where all my notes are. Chapter 3. I hope like the website thing and all, like last week kind of I don't know, I just was thinking let y'all play around a little bit because you're gonna have to like do all that kind of stuff eventually. Anyway, but tonight is all about designing your choral program and what you want it to look like. You may go into an established program. You may be building a program from the ground up. You just have no way of knowing until you're in the middle of it. So, most of the time when you get hired, you're walking into an established position where the choir's been established. You've had to, and you're just kind of like you're taking it over, and you have to learn the people and learn what they expect, and then try to put your spin on things and make it your own. Or you could be like me and like they call you up when you're at the vet's office one day and say, "Hey, we want you to hold choir auditions next week, and you're starting a choir back at the high school." Okay, so you just never know what you're walking into. There's a lot of things that go into building your choir program. One thing is, just sitting back and taking notes. If you have a established choir program, it's kind of easy to predict what things are going to look like from year to year, and what type of choirs should be offered and all of that. The big thing is like when you step into a position like that is kind of just sitting back and taking notes and talking to the previous director if they are available for you to talk to them. Just kind of, and talking to the administration and other people and just seeing what they want from you and what their vision of the program is. And take lots and lots and lots of notes. And then another thing is to like take into consideration is the number of students you have, if you have an equal number of boys and girls, ages, experience, that kind of thing. You may get lucky and have an established program. You may not get lucky, and you're building the program, so you're starting with beginners. And a big thing I like the book was talking about is like making sure that you realize it's not just like a high school choir or just a junior high choir. It all should feed into each other as one continuous system, and working with the directors on, on whichever level you're at with the person, junior high level, if you're in a high school position, vice versa. And just making a game plan, like where you want to see the entire program as a whole, down the road, and like how like the junior high program can help you out at the high school, or how you could help out the high school choir director, because it's all one big thing. And even talking to like your elementary music teachers, if you're in a school system that has elementary music, and telling them like things you're looking for to help you out, so they can like set that foundation, lay that groundwork for those kids. Because it's hard to have a choir when you don't have a feeder program. I'm there. It's hard because I've gotten lucky this year because a lot of my kids have either had piano with me or they're in band too. So I have music readers, and it's great and glorious. But there have been years I've had to start from the ground up. So, take notes, talk to people, think through what you want your program to look like. And then the book goes into the different types of choirs that could be offered. So, usually middle school, junior high school choir programs are your beginning choirs, your beginning students. They've had little to no vocal training. They probably don't know how to sight read, so you have to teach all of that. So it's up to you to lay that groundwork with a good vocal technique, teaching them how to read music, how to breathe, how to correctly form vowels, diction, all the stuff that goes into singing. And it may be easier to have an all girls choir, so you can work with them, an all boys choir, so you can work with them and they're changing voices. And then you can like lean towards a more advanced choir where you actually, have like soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Totally up to you what you want, but things to take into consideration are, your social needs for your kids, their musical needs for the kids. How are you going to recruit? How are you going to retain? We talked about all that last week. Just things to think about. And then high school, you have all the same options too. Beginning choirs. That's kind of what I think mine is, because they don't have the choir experience at the junior high level here in Kosciuszko. You can have all girl choirs, all boy choirs, or you can mix them up if you can get some boys. I don't have boys, I have all girls. But also at the high school level, like you can have the more advanced choirs and the smaller ensembles and the specialty choirs like a show choir or a gospel group or the a cappella groups. But it's important that you think of ways to accommodate all of the students. Don't just be like, oh, you haven't done choir before, you can't come in here. If you offer that beginning choir for those kids. Or like I have a special needs student this year, and she sings with us a little bit. I don't hold her responsible for everything we do. But she comes in and she sings with us some. I've made her a manager, so she helps him pass out music. You can find ways to accommodate every student in the school some way, somehow. I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, y'all got any questions about anything, comments before so far? Okay.
Well, so far it's pretty straightforward. You mentioned feeder choirs. You are talking about choirs like elementary. You would include elementary teachers as well as the middle school if there are school programs that have those entry level groups, because a lot of stuff could be accommodated. Like you're talking about training them to sing, training them to be a lot more oral, training them to also be better readers, and then you can be assured that you're to some degree that the quality of students coming in kind of do that. So feeder programs, I've never heard of it being referred to as that, but I get the idea.
It may be a band terminology, something I've picked up along the way talking to her.
Band instructor, okay.
Right. So okay. I don't know where I first heard feeder choirs. I may have made that up. I don't know. But yeah.
I mean, it's a logical thing.
Yeah. So I mean, elementary ideally feeds into your middle school, junior high age, which ideally feeds into your high school ages. Hopefully, in a perfect world. But there's no such thing as a perfect world. It'd be lovely if there were. So another things to consider, you may end up like me and your program may not be large enough to teach only choir. So they have you teaching other classes. Like I have choir, I teach a dual credit music appreciation class. I teach class piano. I am constantly all day long, like, what class am I in? Or you may be split between the schools. You may be at the junior high and then the high school. So then you can, like really train up like those junior high age students into what you want them at the high school level. But the big thing is in all of this, be flexible. We have to be flexible as educators. You have to be creative as an educator sometimes, because they may not understand what you're talking about, and you have to come up with some crazy something to teach them whatever. And then be positive, because the more positive you are, the more they're going to buy into whatever you are presenting and giving them. And they're going to look at you like you're insane half the time, and that's okay. So, um, and if you're positive also, it's going to like help the community and the administration and the school district's view of the choir too, because they're gonna be like, oh, okay, they're doing good things. So um scheduling choir. If you make friends with your counselors and your administrators, um ask to see that master schedule. Ideally, this is where it gets tricky. The A lot of places are on a 6-7 period day, but on the secondary level now, a lot of places are moving to the block schedule. We are on a 4x4 block here in Kosciuszko, which means they have 4 classes in the fall, 4 classes in the spring. And if a student is in more than one activity, and so like if I have a student who's in like band and choir, and they don't have us the same block, even though we have begged and begged and begged, please put us the same block because we can figure out how to split the kids up. Eventually you're going to lose kids. Like I'm losing one of my strongest singers in the spring when we go to contest. I'm trying not to panic, but because she has to go take a class that is only offered in the spring second block. So I'm not a huge fan of 4x4. Yep. I'm saying it. I've been fighting that battle for about 4 or 5 years now, and I think we're moving away from it next year, I hope. So then you have your modified block with AB days. But usually activities are, you meet every day. Some they have like an activity block that they meet in. But then it's also like, choir, fight, if you can meet during the day, that is great and awesome, and you need to fight for that as much as you can. I like the book called It Singletons, the one class that only meets for one section that's always during your block, like my senior I'm losing in the spring. And if you're doing after school stuff, coordinate with the other extracurricular activities that are going on. That's like what we do here is like, we know, like say there's a student who is in soccer and band right now, and it's marching season, but it's not soccer season. So our band director gets that student more than the soccer coach gets that student. They just have to kind of work together and figure out who's getting what, when, how, wherever. Planning periods, do not let them tell you you cannot have a planning period, because you can have a planning period. Mississippi law says you can have a planning period. Know your laws. You can have 50 minutes. Ideally, you get the full block if you're on a 90-minute block, like we are on 4x4. But you need that time to plan for what you're doing. So advocate for yourself in that, and advocate for your group. Don't be afraid to stand up for your group. They get tired of listening to me sometimes because I'm in there fighting for my group a lot. But you got to do what you got to do. Just go in to be positive though when you're doing it. It's hard to sometimes though, because sometimes I'm just like, but you have to be positive and happy and like, hey, can we work this out? And usually if you go in like that, they'll try to help you out. So scheduling though is not, you can have a say so in it, but it's really ultimately up to the administration and the counselors. So make friends. I bake them stuff all the time and leave it in the office. So if y'all got any questions about that.
Again, when you're referring to these block periods, could you explain that again? Just one more short round.
Yeah, it's like confusing. It's confusing. So AB days are like your typical college schedule. You meet some classes on one day, some classes on another, but they usually have like an activity block where they put all the activities in that one block. So they meet every day. 4x4, you have 4 classes in the fall, 4 classes in the spring, and you change classes at Christmas. And big thing on that too is to make sure like your choir block is scheduled for all year. Like I'm scheduled second block all year long if they're in choir, or band is fourth block all year long if they're in band. But 4x4 can get tricky if there are multiple activities, or you have those classes that are only meet like one block the entire year. So that can affect stuff too. And then a 6 or 7 period day is your normal change classes every day.
Okay.
I've really liked teaching on block, but I don't like what it's done to my numbers because I've lost students because of it. And band has been the same way. We have both been like, you say you want to grow the fine arts, but so that's what I'm saying. You're going to hear me say it a lot. I said it last week. I'm saying it again tonight. Advocate for your kids, advocate for you, advocate for your group, especially when it comes to the scheduling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, and then it comes into auditions and all of that. So, what would you consider the difference to be between an audition and a vocal evaluation?
Well, one is the audition is actually you presenting what you have in terms of becoming a part of something. To whereas a evaluation is you've been a part of a performance group. Let's just use that as the thing, and you're being evaluated in terms of your performance, maybe to being promoted to something else. It could be, an evaluation can determine whether or not you stay and be a part of that. Well, and the audition will be a tool that says you can be a part to participate. But this is your first time being introduced to the actual performance group, and of course, you show what you know in an audition, and an evaluation you show what you learn. That's just my semester. I don't know if that's relatively close, but it's
close. Shaquille, what do you think?
You said what is the difference between an audition and vocal evaluation?
Yes.
I would say audition is just to hear just where I could place you. And then vocal evaluation is where like I take inventory on your technique, intonation, things of that nature. When I'm like doing a detail, like how performance presence, all of it.
Yes. Good answers. Yay. That's exactly. So auditions, like, do you get in, do you not get in? Evaluation is seeing where they are, how you can grow them, all of that. So in an audition, you're looking at their range, their tessitura, you're taking them through all the little exercises, tone, expressiveness, you want to hear their voice, right? So used to, I was like, okay, let's sing like My Country 'Tis of Thee or Amazing Grace, and I would get looks like so I just have them sing. I let them pick something they know now. I have them sing it a cappella, just a little verse chorus, just so I can kind of hear where they are. And then there's sight reading. Yay, sight reading. I typically don't sight read in my choir auditions because I know I am dealing with beginners. But even if you're not dealing with beginner singers, keep it simple as much as you can. And I don't know if you're familiar with like Sight Reading Factory or MuScore or any of that. So I'm going to get out of this for a second. Well, let me out. Escape.
Well,
And,
let me ask you this: tone
uh-huh.
expressiveness, sight singing, range test too. What
There we go.
uh should an audition include? I'm just asking if that's a part of your auditioning process, where you can check to see if they are beginners. How, I mean, I guess to see where they are in
Mhm.
terms of their oral skills. Do you ever? Is that something that you?
I do. When I'm checking their range, I'll play like
That,
I'll just like play a note, sing this back to me, sing this back, um and a little bit later on, it talks about like your tonal memory exercises and all of that, which is kind of what I'm doing at
okay.
the same time. I'm like, can you match this pitch? Can you see? And normally I have found that they're going to freeze up the higher it gets because they don't know how to sing in a head voice at all. Because I
Okay.
mean, what they're listening to on the radio is not
Right.
pop singing or whatever is not the same as the singing like we have learned. So I have to teach how to do head voice and how to bring that head voice down a lot. Um, so I'm really trying to listen into those auditions too, like if I think they can get up there, if they can't. So that's why I just kind of take it like one note at a time, like sing C, sing D, sing E, or um, and it always freaks them out just a little bit. Just a little bit. So
And, and I got one more question.
Mhm.
Generally on that level, their what would you say is their interest level when they do come to audition? Do they really just want to be a part of it, or is it that just what you think they're trying to find out if this is something they want to do? Or do
um,
you get a mixture of that? I'm just curious.
I tend to get a mixture. Most of
Okay.
the time though, it's because they have friends in there and they've heard that we do have fun and
Okay.
and
Yeah, well, I forgot
have
about that. Yes,
places
ma'am.
and yeah, peer pressure. Um, but I have had some who come and audition and all too, who are just filling out the waters. And you can usually tell when they come in if they're really interested or not. And in a little bit, I'm going to talk about like more of the stuff I look for too, because I don't just look at their voices. I'm looking at their discipline and I'm looking at their grades. Because one year I just let everybody and their mama in, and that was the hardest year I've ever had because I let some people in I probably should not have. Looking back and looking at their discipline, yeah. But then also, like choir falls under all the same eligibility stuff as athletics and all in Mississippi. So they have to have a certain grade point average and all to be eligible.
Right.
So if they or don't have that grade point average from the get-go, I don't even let them
Okay.
in. Um, but usually I usually don't have to worry about that too much. But
Okay.
most of the time they are interested in coming. Um, when you're doing the sight reading stuff, I know you're probably familiar with like MuScore, all the little free software stuff. Google, tell y'all this, also has an extension. I can't remember that out of the way. It's in my way. Um, called Music Snippet. I'm actually going to try to teach my choir kids how to do that tomorrow. Let's pray. Because they didn't realize that I've had them writing their own sight reading stuff the past couple of weeks on Thursdays in class. But you can pull it up. Bill Dave. It's changed some. Anyway, it pulls up where you can do the software stuff. I should have log out of Google account, we're gonna yeah, we're not gonna worry about that right now. Anyway, if I can get it to work next week, I'll show y'all. But there's also what I use with my choir students, like every day with our sight reading stuff in class and their tests. It's a website called Sight Reading Factory, and the subscription isn't really that bad. I think it's like $35 a year for the teachers, and then it's like $2 or $3 a student. My district just pays for it for us, and it's great. But for the student accounts, but you can go in and create your own little custom levels. Like right now, we're working on Death through Law, just stepwise, and it automatically generates your different sight reading stuff for you too. And then there's a way, or maybe I'll just usually, yeah, you can print it and all too, and you already have it there if you want to give them like a paper copy to do too. I love Sight Reading Factory. And then the students can go in and they can take their test and all in there too. And they just record it on their computer and submit it, and it's been the best thing.
Oh, I have a question. Is like sight singing required for all, like for the program in general? Because I remember when I was in middle school, we never had sight singing.
I incorporate it. Well, like if you go to contest, you've got to do it. Some people opt for, like Mississippi has the Choral Arts Festival too, where sight reading I think is optional. But if you go like the state performance assessment, you've got to sight read. I start them off from day one doing the rhythms in the solfege. So I think it helps make you a better singer too. I want them to be able to read.
It's really helped me. Because I was gonna say when I got to college, I was like, what? Yeah. But I think, yeah, you're right. Definitely does make you a better singer.
Mm-hmm.
Just excellent.
So and I start off simple. Like we started do through, I think I did do re mi like the first couple of days, and then we added soul. We just added law like the last part of last week. I'm just kind of working my way, but I've already introduced like T and high do to them. They just haven't read it on here yet. And there is a rubric. Let me get out of Sight Reading Factory. I think, did I put the sight reading rubric in? Did I not pull up y'all's folder? MUW. You can see all the stuff I've got going on. Yeah, there. Oops. Sorry, I haven't found the junior high ones yet. I got to dig, but like those are like the high school rubric. It's in the Google Drive folder too, with the different levels, with the rhythms, and then like what they're expecting on the melodic side of things too. And I just kind of use this as a guide and just keep adding to it as the year progresses. And before we go to contest, I'll really give them the hard stuff. So that way when they go to contest, they're like, oh, that was easy. Trick them. But like when you're doing the audition, I mean, if you're doing like, they're beginners, I would not worry about the sight reading. But if they have been in choir for a while, I would do the sight reading. Y'all got any other questions about?
Okay, with the rubric, was it rubric?
Rubric, yes.
Rubric. Is that a place? Okay, for Mississippi people, where would we get that? I know you have it, but where would we actually find that information?
Usually it's on the, I don't know if they've updated all the websites or not yet. Let me look. So they do that it's gonna be there.
Because you also mentioned something about something that's coming up in September too last week.
Oh,
the seminar. What is it?
Oh yeah. Let me go to the Mississippi. I don't know if I should go to ACE. I don't know where to start. Okay, I'm gonna go Mississippi High School Activities Association first. I have to hunt for stuff. Usually, like, we have a Google Drive folder that they email out to all the choir directors
Okay.
in the state too. Like with choir stuff on the MHSAA website, Mississippi High School Activities Association. It's activities, choral. Ooh, Dragonfly. I gotta do that tomorrow. I'm still trying to get students registered and for eligibility purposes. Well, like there's the junior high. No, that's last year's. They usually have the manuals on this website too, but let me see. Mississippi Music Educators. I never can remember that. MEA.
That's this website that I know.
Yeah.
Mississippi Music Educators.
Usually there's like a new teacher handbook. That manual is usually on there too. When there's the rubric, like that's last year's manual, and they have it for junior high too. But the rubric, there it is, the sight reading rubric. It's all on there too. I think the junior high rubric is very similar. I don't know if it's on there. I saw a junior high handbook somewhere the other day. I'll find it and send y'all the link. Like I just saw it the other day. But the fall workshop for high school is September 30th at Starkville High School. And I could put this link in the chat.
Let's see, how do I?
So let me find the chat. Oh, there it is. Well, open. And I can email that out to you. No, if I don't write it down, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it came through. I got it.
Okay.
Let's see where I can put this.
Okay. And I mean, use that rubric. I use that rubric for everything when I'm doing stuff. Even we're going to talk about the performance assessment stuff later on next week or so too. About what they're looking for when you go to contests and all of that, and the music lists, and there's a whole lot. That's why I'm like, there is we do have that mentor program in Mississippi. So when you do start teaching, you can sign up for that mentor. They help so much because it is a lot to figure out. Let me see. Let me come back. Move that back out of my way. Oop, wrong thing. There it is. Okay. Tonal memory. I've already kind of hit on this because, like, Jerry, you were asking like how I do their range and all. The book has some examples of stuff that they have in there and it's all like quarter note, quarter note, quarter note. You're not really trying to like make them sing a rhythm and sing the notes at the same time. Just like, I'll play a note. Can you sing this? Or I might play a series of notes. Can you sing this? If you start and end on the same note, that always helps. Try to keep that tonal center suggested by the notes, like do, re, mi, do. I call not too fast, not too slow. I always call it the Goldilocks tempos. 5 to 7 notes. You don't want it too long. Write it without the rhythms. Don't have them worried about singing the right note and the right rhythm. Just have them worried about singing the right note. And then if you want to do some rhythm stuff too, you can be like, clap this back and see how they do. That does help you kind of get an idea of like if they're going to be able to carry a tune or not with the tonal memory exercises. And sometimes you have to make a decision if you want somebody in there who can't really carry a tune. I have a student like that right now. She's gotten a lot better. She has grown a lot the past year. but she works really hard. That's why I let her come on in and join us. But all that but on page 54 on the book, in the book, has like some examples of like some little tonal memory stuff, and it's all kind of like based around like a tonic chord or like a little 5-note scale or whatever, just to kind of give y'all an idea. You got any questions about that? Okay. Student information forms. Have the students fill it out as they're waiting. I have it on my audition form. Have your contact information, have not yours, you want their contact information, their parents' contact information. Any previous musical experience, not necessarily choir. I'm like, do you play the piano? Have you taken guitar lessons? Have you been in the band? And then grades and discipline, I told you a minute ago, I'll look at that. MHSAA does say that students have to have a 70 or higher overall GPA to be eligible. Because if they're not eligible, they can be in choir, they just cannot take the stage at any kind of contest, anything, but they can be in the class. I was going to show y'all my audition form. So like on mine, their name, address, phone number, parent information. I ask them if they know their voice classification. If they don't, that's fine. Usually they kind of know what they are already. Vocal backgrounds. I ask them why they want to be in choir, what they will add to the choir. Oh, my little thing didn't come over. I have a little staff right here where I can write down like their range and their tessitura and all. And then I just have a rating system about whether their tone quality is focused or if it's kind of airy or if it's bright or dark on their tone color, that, if they're confident, if they're not confident. And then I have all this down here for me too. And I put this in the Google Drive. I put a link to it in that Google Drive folder so y'all could have access to it and see. Do y'all have any questions about like how I do it, what I do, or my form, or because I stole the form from somewhere. I finally found one I liked, and I was like, oh, I like that. We're going to keep that. We good? Okay. Uh-oh.
I'm good with it because I'm actually looking at the there's one that I saw. Well, that's something else. That's for something else. But I was looking at the student audition form that they had in the book, and it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But you got a lot more things on yours that they do have it, but and this one looks like a real it's general, but I mean, but you got a lot more information on yours, so I guess I think I kind of like that one you got.
I like having everything on one piece of paper, so that way, and they get so mad at me too because I'll take that and I keep it, and then when school starts back, I'm like, okay, you're going to sing for me again, because voices can change over the summer, and they hate me when I make them do that. But I just want to make sure before I start assigning them. I hate saying assign a voice part, especially because they're still young, but telling them like, okay, you're going to sing soprano or you're going to sing alto. And sometimes I swap them up in the middle of the year and then they really hate me. It's good for them.
Real quick, one on number 5, confidence. So I know what confidence is, and how do you assess that?
If they come in and are like, okay, I'm going to sing, or if they're like the whole time, or if they're like Amazing Grace, or if they're like Amazing Grace, if they're brave, I guess. I think it takes a lot of guts to get in there in front of somebody you don't know and halfway sing.
So, well, let me ask, and so, so most of your auditions for choir, is it just one-on-one, or do you have them to come in and maybe, I mean, when do you, well, do you, because what, okay, one group that I auditioned for, uh, they had us to come in and actually sing, you know, with the people who were also auditioning. So I don't know what that typically does, but I guess that just I guess overall to see whether or not you can retain your part without having to fall on someone else's part, particularly because they had me singing with a bass, a tenor, at least this, and I know this happened when I was in, I know this particularly happened when I auditioned for the choir in college. Um, you know, and even, you know, and they made me actually sing with it. And then in choir at college with Dr. Williams, he tested. I know for me, well, they checked your sight reading ability just to see whether or not you know, how you placed. And fortunate for me, you know, I was always trying to get in the bass section and trying to sing low, but they would never let me sing low. They would always put me in the tenor section, and I always felt like I was more of a, believe it or not, I trained as a baritone with my voice teacher, but then I sang tenor in the choir for whatever, you know, and that's even the case when I was singing last semester. He quickly put me in the tenor section, Mr. Dr. Rader. So I'm just curious to know if you did that, and I just never really could grasp the idea of singing with the other people. I know in some choirs they just wait and then they get everybody together. They take the group that finally made it. I know one group did that. One high school group did. One high school teacher did that. Once he got the new singers, he took the new singers and let them sing with. As a matter of fact, let them sing in front of the choir that was already, you know, people who were already there, because he didn't allow them, because they had a structured program where people that he retained over the semester, but then when he invited the new people in, he would make them sing in front of the new group. So make the new group sing in front of the old group, and then the old group would come up and sing something, and then they would come together, and I guess that would help with the bonding process. So I was just kind of like, okay, that's interesting. So that was just one of the things that I saw one teacher do, and I'm trying to think. It was somewhere in Boonville, Mr. Brown, Ricky Brown, Baldwin, I think. Baldwin. Yeah. So, but anyway, that was just one situation where, you know, because at the time I was trying to observe with, you know, other teachers just to see what they were doing in their music programs, because I knew that I would be involved at some point. I just didn't know when. So
I do one-on-one in the auditions because I know they're already nervous enough as it is.
Okay.
I don't make my current members re-audition. I just do like an evaluation to see where they are. Now once they get in, I could see why you would pull in like other people auditioning, like you said, to see if they can maintain their part, hold their part. And I would, you know, probably check it for the blend and all too between the singers. But like once I get my group together, I do start, you know, like I'll do sectionals with them, and then I'm like start moving them around, and trying to put like my stronger voices towards the center because I know everybody's going to be listening. And I call them little vocal leeches. Sometimes they get mad at me because I'm calling them a leech. And I'm like, well, you're not singing. That's what you're doing. You're sucking the lifeblood out of somebody else. But they and then like I'll do like a lot of like if we're doing like a pass off though, I will make them pair up with somebody from another section. And
Okay.
they get so mad at me, but I'm like, it's good for you. But yeah, in the audition process, I'm just doing one-on-one because I don't want them to
That's it.
be totally freaking out because they're already scared enough as it is. Um, yeah. So any other questions about that part? We're good. All right. So when you get into the audition, it's like, what do I do? Visit with them, ease their nerves, try to get to know them a little bit. Um, they think I'm insane anyway when they come in there and they really think I'm crazy by the time they leave. And then when they come into choir and they have me for a year, bless their hearts. Uh, so um try to make them feel at ease and comfortable because they are already nervous. I cannot talk today. It's one of those days. Warm them up, listen for those notes, listen for their range, listen for their tessitura, have them sing their little solo. Um, do it a cappella if you can. Because it's hard, if they're singing along with like whatever they've pulled up on Spotify or whatever, they're gonna be singing like Beyonce, I don't know, or Adele or whoever. Um, just have them sing it on their own, and that way you can really hear their voice. Side singing, we've talked a lot about that. um, I don't do it with my beginners. Now if I had a more advanced choir, I would do it. Tonal memory exercises, we've talked about that, have them stand where they cannot see what you're playing on that keyboard too, because if they see that you're getting higher up on that keyboard or lower on that keyboard, they're going to freeze up and tighten up and just, I can't hit that note, even though they really probably can hit that note. And then when it's over, smile, thank them, be kind and encouraging, tell them when you're posting the list and send them on their little merry way. And then they're going to come knocking on your door every day until you're like, get the whole thing done. But I always tell them though, it's going to take me a few days and I'm going to shoot to have it. Say I'm auditioning like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll tell them Friday, I'll have the list posted Friday or whatever. So, that's really, I mean, y'all have auditioned for stuff. You know how auditions go. Even when I'm judging like a piano thing or whatever, I do the same thing. I talk to them and visit with them and try to calm them down before I make them get to work. So main thing is making them feel comfortable before you start putting them through their paces. And we've already talked about this a little bit a minute ago with voice placements and arrangement and singing arrangements and all. So I was actually talking about this during choir today because I have a soprano who is like, "Ah," everybody else she's really loud. So, I've told you, like, I do sectionals and I try to listen to their voices and try to put like the stronger singers in the middle. That your distinctive voices, your stronger voices in the middle, and then kind of fill it out. Um, put those buffer voices, mix them in if you can, because it'll kind of help make the sound not as like, oh, it's all coming from one person in the middle. Um, try to pair your strong and weak readers, your strong and weak singers. And I have found that like my students kind of naturally do that in a rehearsal. Like, like usually they're like, okay, they're sitting by a buddy who's like, okay, now where are we in the music? Even though I have it all pulled up on the TV screen where they can see exactly where I am on my, in the music and whatever I'm marking or whatever. So I use an iPad to play off of for everything and have all my music on it and they can see it. I just shoot it up on the TV through the Apple TV. It's the best thing ever. But if you're pairing like your stronger singers with your weaker singers, it's going to bring up those weaker singers eventually. Hopefully that's the goal. And then don't be afraid to play around with different formations for rehearsals and performances. Like where I have them in rehearsal may not be where they are when we perform. And I will have them like spread. My classroom is huge, and I'll have them spread out. Like, okay, sopranos, I want y'all over here. Like right now, we're doing a lot of like two-part stuff where then it mixes like the different songs together, and they're having to sing their parts individually because I'm trying to work with them on maintaining that melody line and being independent singers and just kind of gelling as a choir. And today they sounded amazing. I'm so proud of them because we finally got it. We've been working on that one song for a week. But like I may place like sopranos, you go over here, altos, you go over here, or pair up with the buddy, or don't be afraid to play around with all your different seating arrangements and where they're standing and what they're doing. And then when it comes to a performance, sometimes you may be the day before going, I'm moving y'all around and swapping people. So don't be afraid to play with it. Don't feel like you were stuck in one spot once you get them in their seats. And then in the book on pages 62 through, where all is it? There's a lot of pages. 69. They have I started to scan all this in. I was like, that's a lot. They have all these different diagrams of different like seating arrangements and explanations, and why this would be good. Yes, all of that. So just look through all of that. And just talking about how like the different placements and arrangements, would like affect the sound. Like I've sung in choirs where, you had your traditional like soprano, alto, tenor, bass. And I've sung in choirs where we did mixed quartets all the time. So it's really up to you and what kind of sound you want for your choir too.
Real quick question with that. With these diagrams, are they based? They're not necessarily based on choir sizes, or do they arrangement according to the sizes? I'm just because I don't think this still is chapter 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't get that far with it.
I think it's all the
I'll read. I think that's where I stopped ending the audition, and I think that's where I stopped reading.
It's all like different. I think the first few, it's been like 2 weeks since I looked at that little part. Yeah, it's talking about like the first like few are like your more advanced choirs, then it keeps going, down to like your treble choirs, your boy choirs, and it's talking about like male choir, like on page 67. I lost it. 33. Oh, it's one on the next page about like how it could help with intonation or sound or the stronger part. So it's just yes and no. That is such a non-answer for what you just asked, Jerry. But really, whatever you decide, it's going to be based on the size of your choir too, and your singers, and you'll know as you're working with them like what they're capable of, and if they're going to sound better mixed, or if they're going to sound better with their part. Or I will say I try to put my stronger singers in the middle always, especially the ones I know who can hold their part, because if I put a weaker singer next, like a weaker soprano next to a strong alto, sometimes that soprano is going to start singing that alto part. So it's just really knowing your students.
Because 314 is, I think that looks like the way Shakia, the way we got the choir set up for Dr. Raver's choir. Sopranos on the left and altos on the right, bass and tenor left and right to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that's kind of the arrangement that we got with the choir there. So yeah,
that's what I've done in the past when I've had guys. I've because I've always had so few guys. I've always put them in the middle when I've had guys. Because I'm like, look, I have men, I have boys, they're gonna sing. I want them to be heard. Especially when I've got like all these big wah wah sopranos and altos. So and it is just playing around with the arrangements and figuring out what works best. And if you don't have that many guys, I would put them in the middle.
Got it.
Looking to see if there's something that may be. Oh, yeah. Oh, and this was in there too. I forgot I had that in there about voice matching and blending, you know, have them sing a section in a well-known song as it, you know, listen for your individual voices, move them around, larger voices in the middle to add to the power of the sound. Your buffer voices kind of blend with everybody else, and don't be afraid. It's all the stuff I already said a second ago. I forgot I had this on the slide, but because I did this like 2 weeks ago. But and I've been looking ahead. Play around with your sound though. Listen to them, have them sing a well-known little something. Like I'm still playing around with my sopranos right now because I call them the wah wah sopranos. They're loud. And everybody's looking at them like she's loud. So I'm really kind of playing with the idea of putting my altos in the front and my sopranos in the back, because my sopranos my altos aren't singing out right now. I was like, maybe if I stick them right in front of me, I can knock some sense into them, scare them into singing. Oh, I love them. I'm saying it all in love. So, but don't be afraid to play around with it. And I tell them all the time, I'm gonna move you. Just get used to it. So, and I think that's it on all of that. Y'all got any questions about any of that?
I'm good. I'm just like I said. I'm I'm good. At least with that, because the only thing that I haven't read is the part where we doing the seating arrangements. That's where I stopped.
So I mean, the main thing with that is play around with it. Let me see what y'all got this week. So we have 2-ish assignments. One is you're on a little audition form. Y'all have got my example. If you want to take mine and tweak it, there's one in the book you can tweak. Have at it. Again, I'm trying to give y'all something to work with later on when y'all start teaching. And then I want you to write some sight singing exercises and some tonal memory exercises. Like an easy one, a more moderate one, a difficult one on the sight singing. That rubric, I should put that rubric in here too, actually. Add that. And I should have done that. Okay. Like the sight reading levels is there in that Google Drive folder, and I'll throw it over into the Canvas course too. But like level 1 is the easy. And I would say like a level 3 would be your more difficult, probably like a 2-parter, a little bit more involved. And then you keep on going and it gets even more
complex.
Yeah. So do an easy one. And if you want to keep it all, I maybe wouldn't even do like a 2, 3, 4-parter unless you really want to. But I mean, just like look at the rhythms though that they're adding and the leaps and all of that as you're writing them. And if you have questions about like your music software and how to use it, just let me know. And you should be able to save it all as like a PDF and then upload it from there. And then the tonal memory exercises, keep it simple enough to where the students could sing it back.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, just holler at me. Or if you have any questions now, just holler at me while I'm still on.
Well, you're saying it, okay, just, is it, we're doing these exercises, at least with these sight singing and tonal exercise for beginners, or what, okay.
Well, I said easy, moderate, difficult. So like a beginner, middle of the road, been in choir a year or two, and then someone who's going to trying to get into like a more advanced choir.
Okay. And that is for that's the sight singing exercise.
Yes.
And then the 3 tonal memory exercises.
Keep it simple.
Okay.
I'd keep it simple. Just something you can maybe use one day.
Because I know what we were doing in sight reading was some crazy stuff. Well, I ain't gonna say crazy stuff, but the stuff that we did in there, well, some of it was simple, basic stuff for beginners, and then he got real extraordinary towards. So and we used the as a matter of fact, we used the Cho book and for the sites. See, and I never told him, oh, I don't remember singing solfege, and I don't remember doing that at Mississippi State. And they did it, but they didn't do it like they're doing it now. So,
right.
So
I'm kind of in the same boat. Well, like my high school had show choir. We didn't have choir. So like all of my choir experience was in church choir. And then when I went to Delta State for undergrad and I was doing piano and voice, even then like in our oral theory classes and all, we did the numbers instead of the solfege. So when I went to grad school at Ole Miss, suddenly I was thrown in. I mean, I knew solfege, but I didn't know it like that. And I am in these classes.
Well, I knew the numbers.
Right.
Well, I knew the numbers, and but Jesus, I was like, really? But I saw the value. I saw the value in it, and so I know that my sight reading compared to what I did when I did my what's that is it a bearer jury? It's when they asked the a bearer's jury.
Oh, the barrier stuff, yeah.
And they gave me a sight reading piece, and the bearer's jury, I was like, I know y'all, and I looked at the piece, I said, and then my before I knew anything, I just flipped and said, I know y'all don't expect me to read this, do y'all? And I started laughing. And so they gave me the pitch. I got about midways through it, and then when we got to all them accidentals, that was it. I the tonal diatonic stuff didn't have a problem with, but when we got to the fees and the phase and the fee, what is it? Tay and re ra. When we got to all of that stuff, I'm like, I know y'all don't expect me to do this.
Like,
so so I got through it, but I mean I passed the jury, but and one of the statements from the comment, need to work on sight reading, need to work on solfege, and only somebody I know who said that was Dr. A. So I knew where that come from, because when we got back into the next semester, it was just straightforward. We grassroots. We gonna do this. So, but yes, I improved with the sight reading last semester. So, and I still do it. So, but now, like I said, so we on we on that map. So yeah, I think we should be able to do a couple of good exercise. Because there was a couple of exercises they did in choir that just had me just laughing. But they were great exercises, especially the ones with the tongue twisters.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, what is it? Mama made me mad. What's it? Not Mama made me mad, but
we
what
did
is the one?
Like today we did Mama Made Me Mash My M&Ms, and they sounded like the Swedish Chef, and they did not know who the Swedish Chef was, so we ended up watching Swedish Chef videos on YouTube for about 5 minutes.
Mama made me. Yeah. We did that one in choir. What was one of the ones you picked? Shakia. She had one, and I just stayed tickled the whole time. During the, because I now tongue
was it Peter
twisters.
Piper pick up pepper to catch the flow of water?
Yeah, he catch that. He caught that too, and that's exactly the one that I was like, I know, Peter did all of this in one night. So I've just never been good with tongue twisters. And then to think that you're gonna put him in a vocal exercise, that was crazy. So that's one of the difficult ones. And then I seen this one group do. They did all of this real incredible stuff. Male chorus did it. They did it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They did some real fast riblet exercises. It was boys to men. It was really, really boys to men. They had boys to grandpapas in the choir, and they did these exercises on 1 to 8, and I thought it was just ridiculous because, they were not missing a lick in those vocal warm-ups. And I'm like, they really are serious. And even when they modified it with, the chromaticisms and stuff, I was like real wild. I'm like, okay, so how did they do that? So, but yeah.
Yeah, we do we'll do like 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, but then I've changed it up on them the other day.
That's the one. That's the one right there. That's the one.
I threw it on them the other day. I changed it up on them yesterday and said we did like do, do, re, mi, re, do. And they were like, what? And then I love, like, we do like Chester cheetah chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. And that's a mouthful. Chester cheetah chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. And then, and then we do ones like the cat wore a hat and the bee had a flea and they jumped on the board. Oh my Lord. And they're like, oh. And it gets funny, like, as the faster you get, they're like, oh. So I try to do a tongue twister every day to get their brains going and to work on that diction. They don't realize they're working on that diction, but they're working on that diction. So, anyway, that's all I've got. Y'all got anything else? Y'all good?
I'm good.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm good.
Yeah, she's good. So 6:30, good for y'all next week too. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I like this better.
Yes, sir.
So, alrighty. Anyway, that's all I've got. So if y'all